Updating our top 10 quarterbacks for the 2026 NFL draft after week 2 of college football. The QB of the week, the stock risers, and the stock fallers coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst with the Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He's the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with the LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. You know what it is, guys. It's Tuesday, which means it's time to talk top 10 quarterbacks. Our weekly updated rankings. Guys, we're going to talk about the QB of the week from week 2, those stock risers and those stock fallers. Who performed well, who didn't perform to the expectation. But before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 back in bonus bets to use across the app. QB of the week, Keith. Again, week 2, still some guys getting off to some slow starts right now. But I think my QB of the week, and we talked about John Mateer, so I'm not going to double down on him. But I'm going to go to a guy that I'm watching very closely in the SEC this year, and especially once they get in the SEC play, and that's Arkansas's Taylen Green. I'm watching him very closely, Keith, because at 6'6", 235 pounds, Taylen has all of the physical tools and ability. They haven't played a big-time opponent just yet. They started the season out with Alabama A&M. He lit them up for 6 touchdowns. Then they played Arkansas State in week 2, where he was 17 to 26, 239 yards passing, averaged nearly 10 yards per pass, 4 passing touchdowns. He had 2 interceptions in this game, but then he also added 151 yards rushing and a rushing touchdown. So this is a big-time playmaker in skill set. 5 total touchdowns, 11 so far through 2 games, 11 total touchdowns. I want to make sure he didn't have any rushing in week 1. But no, so 11 total touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I think this is a guy that when you look at there's GMs, you know what I mean, that look for guys who have the God-given traits and ability. And it's like, if you have the right, the right OC and the right QB coach and all play caller, you can get the best out of these type of guys. And Monday Night Football, you saw Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and two franchises that displayed the patience to reap the benefits of their draft picks of both guys. It wasn't clean passing for either quarterback the first 2 or 3 years of their career, but by years 4, 5, and 6, they became 2 of the best in the league. So I look at Taylen Green and what he's just been putting on film right now. The kid looks like he's ready to take a big leap forward. He's got new receivers, Omega Blake, who transferred in after they lost some guys. One guy went to Oklahoma, Santega, who played with John Mateer on Saturday night. I'm watching Taylen Green. He's my QB of the week, and this is a guy that I don't feel like anybody's really, not even whispers. Nobody's talking about him right now. But once we get to SEC play, if he keeps this, maybe not 6 touchdowns. I'm not going to say that, like 5, 6 touchdowns a game. But if he's able to really play well against SEC competition and win some of those games, his stock is going to continue to rise.
Yeah, no, and Taylen was a guy that over the summer we discussed, right? And then when I really jumped into the film, we talked about it, right? 6'5", the elite movement skills, start-stop ability, lateral agility, all of those different things. You look at it and you say that what's the upside, right? When you talk about the whole entire profile, and the upside is, can somebody buy into this guy? Like if he plays a clean kind of season, right, to where he minimizes turnovers, you see the rushing yards, they float somewhere in between 500 and 1,000 yards. The passing yards float somewhere around 3,000 yards. Is somebody going to buy into this guy in the late 2nd, early 3rd round? It's like, man, this could be a really good project for us to develop, right? And I think that'll be very interesting. So I get him getting QB of the week. I completely understand, because as they ramp up and get into SEC play, I think this is positive momentum for him, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah, they got Mississippi State this Saturday.
Who just had a big win, right? And it's funny about Mississippi State, because I was going to go with their quarterback, Blake Shapen.
That would be a great choice the way he played Saturday night.
Yeah, but what I'm gonna do is, and we'll get to Blake another time. What I'm gonna do is I'll go with Tennessee's quarterback, Joey Aguilar, right? And it's almost like a rinse repeat, right? Put him in, take him out, put him in, the Tennessee quarterbacks. And right now at this point, he's playing pretty good football. This past weekend, I think they played East Tennessee State. Yeah, East Tennessee State, which they blew them out. I think it was 72-10, 72-17, I think it was. But week 1, they had their kickoff, right? I think it was the Aflac kickoff. And completion percentage was okay, 57% completion percentage, but he had 3 touchdowns, and then he had another 6 carries for 34 yards, right? So we knew Tennessee losing Nico Imiava, it will put them in a situation where they had a question mark, right? Like, what is this offense going to look like? But it looks like thus far, it's in a good spot. They're going to be it's going to be another year of them being a tough out for teams. And then when you go back to it, DP statistically, Nico didn't necessarily light it up for him last year, right? Like he was touchdown, 35 touchdown guy, right? He played solid. So if Joey could come in there, a guy that's I feel like he's more experienced, just from the perspective of he looks more calm, right? He looks more calm. He knows when to take the calculated shots. If he comes in there and plays well, then guess what? It can be very interesting. But I'm going with Joey Aguilar as my QB of the week, because he continues to take steps forward.
Yeah, I mean, and as this situation continues to play itself out, right? The way Joey's played well, right? He spent, 2023 and 2024 at App State, and the one thing he hasn't done so far this season is make the mental mistakes and decision-making mistakes he did at App State. 2 years at App State, he threw for 24 interceptions, right? Like the 2024, he threw 23 touchdowns. So, you know what I mean? Like, he's clean some of that up in that decision making. Now, granted, and this is a QB friendly scheme that Josh Heupel runs, so he kind of stepped in and just looked comfortable right out the gate. You know what I mean? And I think, and then when you compound that with the way Nico Iamaleava has looked at UCLA, it's still a learning curve, still development going on with him.
Transfer again, man. Just go ahead, transfer again.
Like, it just is. It doesn't look good, especially with all the stuff that went on this offseason and everything. And we listen, at the same time, we were on here saying, listen, that transfer from Nico would have been made the best sense, because we've watched Hendon Hooker, what was the Joe Milton also there, you know what I mean, like coming out of that offense, and then you get to NFL offense and everything's more condensed, the spacing is not the same. You're like, oh, like you could, some of the throws you did at Tennessee does not work in the NFL. You're going to have to read these things, these windows quicker, the route concepts, everything. And Joey just stepped in, and he's looked especially from a passing standpoint, he's looked way more functional than Nico did in Tennessee, which is kind of interesting to see. We'll see how it continues to play out for him. I think this would be his
last year.
I think this is
he's a senior for sure. But I don't know if he has. I think
he might have one more year. He might have one more. But college and the eligibility rules are just all over the place. But we'll see, because they do kick off they start SEC competition week 3, and they got Georgia. You know what I mean? Both teams.
We're about to find out. We're about to see if this is QB of the week next week, right? We're gonna get an answer.
We're about to find out everything we need to know about Joey Aguilar and that Tennessee team. Both teams have played cupcakes to this point, so now you get to see real competition for the first time. And that Georgia defense is looking to be the Georgia defenses of old. And this is not a Georgia team that wants to have the year they had last year, right? So, Joey, make sure you are ready to rock on Saturday, because for a fact Kirby Smart is going to have – and then Kirby Smart has been – I think he's been the only real coach, even going back to the Hendon Hooker season, that was able to stifle that offense, that Tennessee offense. That was the team that beat them that year before Hendon Hooker got hurt. It was Georgia. It was Kirby Smart, his defensive scheme, getting pressure, all stuff with Jalen Carter, all those guys. They don't have a Jalen Carter anymore, but they got a lot of other players, Keith. So Joey Aguilar, I like that. I like that, Keith, for him being QB of the week. Again, especially for this draft class, potentially a deep sleeper that a lot of people aren't talking about.
Yep, 100% with DP. Let's keep this thing going, man. We handed out the awards for the QB of the week. Now we're going stock risers, right? Which guys are elevating their stock in this draft class? Let's talk about it coming up next.
When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast because you're working on a project? Simple. Supply House has next day delivery. Talk about a total game changer. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. NFL season is back. And honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your favorite team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best prices. Plus, all fees are included. So the price you see is the price you pay. And when you think about things I really love and appreciate with Game Time, the app is made to be super simple. I can even see the exact view from my seat before I even hit purchase. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Quarterbacks that performing well, their stock is on the rise. Keith, I go to Baylor. I talked about Josh Cameron on yesterday's show as a moneymaker and everything, but it was his quarterback that realized I need to get my best player the freaking football, and that's Sawyer Robertson. I think when I watched Sawyer, like this was a guy like the week one, I felt like he was chasing the big play too much against Auburn, especially watching the tape back. I'm like, man, Josh Cameron's getting open. You got to get the ball to your guy. And, he still threw, I think, over 400 yards against Auburn. But that was a game that, at 6'4", 220, you should have you had a chance to win that game. You know what I mean? 3 touchdowns, stuff like that. But it was the plays left on the field because your decision-making, you were big game hunting instead of letting the game come to you. Against SMU in a full-blown shootout that went to overtime, he was 34-50, 68% completion percentage, 440 yards passing, 4 passing touchdowns. And the thing for me is they have a good running back. Their sophomore is a legit running back. Like, they can run the ball. They don't lean on it enough, in my opinion. They should make some more balance because that young, I think he's like 6'2", 220. And with speed, like I would be running him. I'll be very much close to 50-50 in terms of my play calling. But they've put a lot on Sawyer Robertson's shoulders these past the first 2 weeks of the season. And he's been up to the challenge. And he's played like a quarterback that understands I'm going to have to carry this offense on my back pretty much all season, just based off of the play calling and just the way he's playing, man. Because he's a redshirt senior, I believe. So I believe he's actually, like, I don't think this might be his last year unless he has that weird 6th year that they give guys from time to time in college football. But if he's able, if he's going to declare for the draft, yeah, this is a guy whose stock is on the rise. Because again, whether it was Auburn, SMU, 2 big time games for your program. One you lost, one you came, especially because they were down at one point. I think 2 scores against SMU was just kind of scoring at will against that defense. Like it was like 1 big play, 2 or 3 big play drives and touchdown. You know what I mean? And to stick and not get boat race was a big thing for me. But not only that, to take it to overtime and then get the dub. Yeah, Sawyer Robinson's on the rise for me. His stock is up.
Yeah, and Sawyer is a good he like walking into the season, right? You got the vibe that he was a good football player, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
he had we use savviness for wide receivers, right? When we talk about route running, but he had some of that savviness to him, the instincts for playing the quarterback position.
Yeah.
He was actually a guy DP. I was actually surprised that Baylor was able to hold on to him, right? Because
Facts.
he played well, and usually, those people come calling, right? They're trying to get you out
That
of the
bag is
portal,
on the
but
way.
yeah,
The
right.
bag
The
is on the
bag is
way.
on the way. But no, I'm right there with you with Sawyer Robertson, and my guy, I bought him up. Well, a couple of my guys, I bought him up last segment. I'm gonna talk about him, Blake Shapen, man. And
Mm-hmm.
this is a pretty cool story. This is a young man that I actually the first time I've ever seen him. He was a freshman in high school, and this was when I was working at LSU, and this was 2017, maybe right, 2017, 2018. And I didn't know he was a freshman. And he was playing quarterback for one of the top high schools in Louisiana. And I just remember him getting like this coach is getting after him, right? And I'm like, man, they
Mm-hmm.
kind of tough on this young man. And then I'm like, okay, well, let me go write down his name. And I'm like, coach, who is this? He's like, that's our freshman quarterback. And I was like, what? Right. And I remember I went back to the office, I wrote his name down. And obviously through the years, right? And then his recruitment finally picked up his senior year. But just to see him at this point, I think he originally went to Baylor. I think he went to
Yeah,
Baylor
I think he was
originally.
at Baylor.
Yeah, and then now he's at Mississippi State. But man, that was a big time win. That was a big time win for him. And if you look at the season statistics, he actually played better against Arizona State than what he played against Southern Miss, right? I think he
Yeah.
had one
Yep.
touchdown, one interception against Southern Miss, and then he threw for 3 touchdowns. And we talk about because I know a lot of people don't know him. This is what I seen on film, DP. A guy that can be accurate with the football, right? Not the strongest arm. He's not the biggest athlete. He's not the most mobile guy. But when we talk about the minor details, this is the only name I could come to this. And I'm not saying he's him, the Brock Purdy's, right? Where this guy is, he's not big enough, he's not strong enough, but the IQ and the way that they see the field allows them to win the game. That's
Yeah.
what Blake has, right? And do I foresee him being a first round, second round pick? No. But could this be a guy? We're putting it on the radar for our listeners that this can be a draftable quarterback. And if they continue to play decent football, you will hear his name in the draft. So a stock riser would be Blake Shapen because as some of these quarterbacks aren't playing that well, guys are going to have to start falling out the top 10. And we'll talk about that next segment. But
Yeah.
guys are going to have to start falling out.
No, 100%. Watching that game, when they got the ball back, it was like a minute and some change
Yeah,
left.
maybe 58 seconds or something like that.
Yeah. And I was just like, how is this going to end? And Arizona State did a good job. It was like, yeah, we're up 3, too high safety. We're not letting you get behind us. And the moment they go to it looked like a cover 0 look because they sent pressure. He identified it. They had a switch release, got the confusion with the corners, the nickel and the outside corner, and he just banged that throw, to what they called the fastest kid in college football. And I mean, he had a long throw earlier to that same receiver, and the speed that young man has. So being able to push the ball down the field, but also identifying the blitz and identifying you're not in too high. There's no safety back there. Okay, you guys are giving me the opportunity to win the game. I'm going to win the game right now. I'm not trusting the kicker. I'm going to make that throw. So shout out to him, man. He played a really good game, and I like the processing, the instincts. I like what he did for that offense. And again, situation where it was truly the defense played well, but if he doesn't play at his level, they lose that game. Like if he doesn't play as well as he did, like Arizona State might have found their rhythm and eventually walked away with that game.
Yeah, no, and I think a good way to put it, DP, is that he somewhat controlled the game, right? Like
Yes.
he was able to control it, just from his perspective. So that's why I say I give him credit, and he'll be a guy. He didn't make the top 10 this list, but obviously a couple more weeks, I could see him sneaking into the back of the top 10 because, once we talk about these quarterbacks, DP, we got to figure something out. And then obviously with the risers, we talked about John Mateer. We covered him on yesterday's podcast. Have to give him credit again. This is probably the had the highest jump and biggest riser. That's the most significant. So just wanted to mention him too.
Yeah, no, the 100%. I think, like I said, out of
And
everybody, he's had that one big polarizing game, and he showed up and handled his business.
yeah, one last guy, and I'm gonna keep talking about him. Dante Moore.
Yeah.
With Oregon. Another impressive performance. I'll say this, DP. This team looked better than last year's team. this team looks dangerous. And I'm all in on it. But Dante Moore,
and it's crazy because they don't have Evan Stewart, who's supposed to be their star wide receiver. Now that what I'm looking forward to with them is
they got the Carrion Moore, I think, is
the 5-star. I think he's like a 10. I think 10-4, I think, in the 100-meter dash.
He's a fast.
Yeah, he's got elite speed, man. And he's a true freshman, too. So, like, once Evan Stewart went down, and I knew that they had got this kid and he was a recruit, and he was going there, I was like, once I saw Evan Stewart was out for the year, I said, oh, this is probably going to be his. Once that passing game really gets going, it's probably going to be the Carrion Moore show. But I hope they can get my guy. He's blocking his butt off, Kenyon Sadiq. He looks like the best blocking tight end in college football right now. He's out there moving DNs, linebacker. He's doing all of it.
Yeah, that's first round tape. That's top 10.
Like legit. Just let's get some receptions.
Yeah.
Let's give him 100 yards and let's see him cook again. That's what I'm looking at. He's putting out a whole like a first round blocking tape. Let's get some of this receiving game going. But I'm looking forward to them. And what whenever they get in the Big Ten, I'm gonna look it up real quick. I don't know when they get into Big Ten competition, but that's he's a guy that moved up. That's a guy that's moved up for me too. Once you brought him up, and I'm looking at their schedule now and pulling this loading here, and they got so they got Northwestern. They get two kind of good games, like not good games, but easily winnable. Northwestern, Oregon State. Then September 27th, they go into Penn State to see Drew Allar and that defense, and that's going to be the barometer for them. All right, where are you guys as a team? Like, are you just beating up on smaller schools or not so talented teams? Or can you go on the road? And this needs to be a night game. White out. I need to hear Mo Bamba playing. Like, I need all that. I need the whole experience for this type of game. Oregon at Penn State. Yeah, college football, don't let me down. I need this as an 8 p.m. kickoff. I need this night game. Like, I need to see it.
100%. Well, DP, let's do this, man. Let's keep this thing going and flowing. And what do we have up next? Stock fallers, right? Which guys stock are falling? We're going to talk about that coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The NFL season is here and back, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 back in bonus bets to use freely across the app. Let me repeat that. I don't know if you understood what I just said. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 back in bonus bets to use freely across the app. So whether it's changing everything into your player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds, FanDuel is the place for you. So my question is, are you ready to play? If so, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. Again, are you ready to play? If so, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Of course, we talked about him Monday, but it was Cade Klubnik. Stock fall, and he fell towards the bottom of my list. And Keith, I'll debut my list for this week. Yeah, he's number 10. So at number 10, I have Cade Klubnik. Number 9, I have Arch Manning, who moved back into the top 10 after I took him out after week 1. I have Sawyer Robertson at 8. Drew Allar dropped to 7. For me, got to move Garrett Nussmeier down a little bit. I'll talk about that in a second. Taylen Green. So Nuss is at 6.
We got to talk.
Nuss is at 6. Taylen Green's at 5. Carson Beck is at 4. Sellers is still at 3. John Mateer moved up to number 2. I kept Fernando Mendoza at 1. For your list, you got a guy that I got to watch the tape on him. And it's a guy we talked about during the offseason. Eli Holstein from Pitt. You got him at 10. You got Cade Klubnik at 9. Mendoza at 8. Dante Moore is at 7. Drew Allar is at 6 for you. Mateer moved up to 5. Beck is at 4. Sellers is at 3. Arch Manning at 2. Nuss is at 1. Keith, for me with Nuss.
Let's talk about, because I think this it's an approach thing. So let's have a conversation. What were you thinking?
So I still like Nuss. So he still got a first round grade for me and everything. I am waiting for that big moment. Like that. I'm waiting for him to be the difference maker when I watch LSU. Right now, a lot of it I'm seeing is more, and I was when they played Clemson, I was like, all right, where's Nick Anderson at? Like, what's going on here? Like, you know what I mean? I was like, this is the
That's
NFL.
Did Nick even play? I didn't even see
he
it.
played. He played.
Okay.
He had like I think he might have like 3 catches and a
I didn't even
touchdown.
pay attention to him. Like I feel like he was a non-factor. Maybe they just the commentators just said Anderson, and I thought it automatically assumed
because
it
it's
was
2
Aaron
of them.
Anderson.
Yeah, it's 2 of them. Yeah, it's him, and then there's number 0. Like they
Xavier
seems like
Thomas, and they do some different things with him. Yep.
And that's what I was getting at with him. Is like they use him as like the motion back and run the ball on inside zone stuff with him, but also a lot of whip routes and mesh concepts and just easy dump offs. Like I want to see the game where Nuss, his imprint is on the game. Like where you're like, man, they won this game because of Nuss. And for me, like, remember I texted you when I was in Clemson at the game, and I saw Nuss, and I was like, he looks small in person. Like he's like 6. He's listed at 6'1". I was like, I don't believe he's 6'1". I think he's probably. I would probably give him 6 foot. I wouldn't be shocked if he's 5'11", but I'll probably give him 6 foot. So he's 6 foot, like 205. But when I'm watching the tape, even against Louisiana Tech, like I think he was 0 of 7 on deep throws, and he had this interception was so bad. Barry Brown had like just smoke coming from his cleats, like how fast he got off the ball. He's like a good 2-3 yards, no, probably like 10 yards actually of separation with him in the corner on the go route. Nuss is not he's protected well. There's no pressure. He lets it rip, throws it. It's underthrown by like 5 yards. So like Barry has to stop, try to come back to the ball. DB catches up to it. The underneath DB bats it and is picked off by the safety. And I was like, Nuss, that is not a throw we could have. Like you got to put your guys open, dog. You got to put that out there. And I'm gonna tell you what it brought me back to. It brought me back to vibes of what his arm strength. Tua, Bryce, his arm is better than Mac Jones. But it was kind of like, what I mean by this, like when I see him go down the field, it's isolated deep shots. It's okay, we got 3x1. I see the one, safety's over here. I'm going, he knows where he's going, right? He's gonna get it out early, lollipop it down the field, ball placement is there. But when the guy is running full speed and you can't get it out early, he struggled to get the ball down the field. He had a couple throws where I'm like, Nuss, if you're playing a better defense, not Louisiana Tech safety, you're playing Georgia, that's a pick, dog. Like he had like 2 of those against Louisiana Tech. And so for me, it's just kind of like physically, I will give him this. Physically, I have some questions with his arm strength. He is showcasing more mobility and that's what I wanted to see. When he sees pressure or feels pressure outside, he will spin out, get on the perimeter, and make a throw. He's still accurate, still the ball placement's still there. But there were some throws in that game that left me very much like, all right, you're not going to get away with this against better teams. You know what I mean? Like if you're playing an Ohio State in the CFP, we can't screen them to death like you did Clemson. They're going to play man-to-man. They got Caleb Downs. You're not getting away with that, Nuss. You're going to have to be able to hit the throws, the confidence I saw last year, pushing the ball down the field and stuff. I haven't seen that yet this year outside of the goal ball against Clemson where he connected on it and it just wasn't caught. But yeah, physically, there's some questions for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I can understand it and we talked about it, right? It's finding that fine line between being a gunslinger and putting the ball in harm's way, but then also taking calculated risks, right? And not being too conservative. I'm gonna look at it, DP, and I think the guy for me that I'm wavering on how I feel is the Drew Allar conversation. In Penn State, they consistently, their thing is start slow, right, and then ramp it up. But when I look at Drew Allar, and I think it was 2 years ago, right, when he lit up, I think West Virginia for like 5 touchdowns or something like that. Was it? I can't remember.
Last year.
It was last year. Okay, but then this past game, I'm looking at his completion percentage, 57% completion percentage, and he's a guy that has the peaks and valleys, right? You almost, I don't want to put him in the same bucket with Cade, but it can be some of the same things. Like when they're on, and then when the decision making is a little bit left, it's a little bit left. So I look at Drew Allar, and I think he only dropped a spot or 2 for me. But as these other guys are playing better, like I have to be completely honest. If I'm Penn State, I potentially want a John Mateer instead of Drew Allar at this point, right? Like I want a guy that's savvy, has moxie to him, tough, can make plays, mobile, things like that. So he's a guy that I'm trying to soft circle to be like, okay, where am I finally going to land on with a grade?
Yeah, spoil it for everybody listening. Tomorrow we're kicking the show off with Drew Allar on Watch the Tape Wednesday, so we're gonna really kind of get in the tape and talk about it. But I agree with you. He dropped to, was it 7 on my list? And it's just right now, it's just consistency. I give him credit. His mechanics are definitely better. Like last year, he was heavy toesy in the pocket, super bouncy, heel clicky, and then sometimes he just didn't even throw from his base. He just like all upper body. This year, but it's more so trying to train his mind and his body. So it's like some throws you see him align perfectly, other throws you see that it's a little delayed. Like he's not used to being technically sound as a passer. And I was like, that's when, for me, to your point, I've seen that peaks and valleys with him even just the first game where he played well in. But I saw that I was like, okay, it's a little inconsistent because you could tell it. I feel like whether it was the OC, the Q, somebody has told him this offseason, your mechanics are not right. And they forced him to they brought it to light to him. And you can tell he's worked on it. But now it's like, how quickly can you get this married? Because like technically you got 2 weeks until Oregon comes to town. So you got Mateo Uyunglele, right? You got all those, that defense can get after the quarterback, especially that guy. And you know that from the Big Ten championship game. So you need to be consistent, a little bit more consistent with your mechanics back, by that game. But yeah, I think that's a big thing for me, honestly, is that it's mechanics are is going to consistently be a thing for him. Like maybe I don't worry about him, like, whether he's got that gunslinger in him too, like, because his arm is legit, like he can rip throws. But it's like, all right, don't fall back into the stuff you did last year. Like, you know what I mean? You can't have that. You do that type of stuff, it puts the ball at risk, it puts the offense at risk, and then you don't look that good to NFL decision makers.
Yep, 100% with DP. That wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listener is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. On tomorrow, it's Watch the Tape Wednesday. We're opening this thing up with Drew Allar. We're going to talk about Mansour Delane, the star corner for LSU, and then our guy from Oklahoma, Deion Burks. Did he have a big enough performance to potentially vault himself in the round one? We'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. So come join the conversation again tomorrow. Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.